to beat President Trump is former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. He announced his candidacy Thursday.
I'm not the first person in the race or the most well-known person in the race. But let me tell you, at 4 syllables and 12 letters, Hickenlooper is now the biggest name in the race.
And now the biggest name in the race joins us live from Austin. Governor, welcome to Face the Nation.
Thanks for having me on.
Is it a good idea to do what Senator Warren is advocating there with breaking up big tech companies?
Well, I think you've got to look at the environment and how the system is working. And for several decades now, increasingly, people in the middle class and poor people in this country haven't had the security and opportunity that our economic system used to create for them. So what is the reason why we're seeing such a large number, a decline in the number of startups, people starting businesses? And maybe some of that is due to these large companies that, usually when someone's going to start a business, they're already a successful employee somewhere. Maybe they're looking at that landscape and saying, these companies are too big, I can't get in. And I think that's one of the arguments that she's trying to make. We have to make sure that we have a competitive system whereby little guys feel they got an honest, a decent chance to succeed.
So you do think tech companies have too much influence over the economy?
No, what I'm saying is that they are, in many circumstances, becoming so large that they make it harder for small companies to compete. I'm not, again, to make a blanket statement about all tech companies, they're too big. I think that would be a little bit going too far. But I do think it's legitimate to say, how do we make sure that we have more competition in such a way that we encourage people to start their own businesses? That's where job creation happens, is when you get small businesses. People like me, I got laid off, and I ended up starting first one restaurant company, then another restaurant company. Then, I took old warehouses and turned them into loft projects. But we created thousands of jobs in that process, and we're able to, stimulate a whole part of Denver and other, cities and towns across the Midwest. That's what drives this country and always has. And we're seeing a decline in the number of people willing to start up businesses.
Well, I want to offer you the chance to clear something up here, because you did an interview earlier in the week where you were asked 3 times if you would call yourself a proud capitalist, and you wouldn't directly answer the question. It led Howard Schultz, who's possibly a candidate, to say, if even a successful businessman and entrepreneur like Governor Hickenlooper can't openly support capitalism in the Democratic primary, it's clear this is Senator Sanders' party now. Why are you uncomfortable calling yourself a proud capitalist?
Well, the point I was making is that we define people by these labels that often have all kinds of associations and baggage with them. In that sense, do I believe in small business? Of course I believe in small business. I started probably more than 20 different small businesses. I'd have, in 1 year, I'd have over 1 million customers. I understand that, but what's happening, I think it's kind of a silly question. We should be looking at some of the reasons behind why we have less and less startups. We should look at some of the reasons why, more and more people aren't wanting to start a business.
Sure, but you understand that it is a main Republican talking point to label Democrats right now as anti-business socialists.
Right, but that's ridiculous. Obviously,
so you would reject
the
that.
Democratic Party is Big Tent.
You reject that label.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's not accurate. And I think that, as your interview with Elizabeth Warren showed, there are all kinds of different people making up the Democratic Party. And do I believe in free markets? Do I believe that, you put capital to work to create jobs and improve your community? Back when I was a kid, businesses understood that part of their job wasn't just to make as much profit as they could, but it was to create the community. Once you get back into these labels, am I a capitalist? Am I a socialist? How much of a capitalist am I versus how much of a socialist? It becomes kind of silly, doesn't it?
Well,
I mean, in a funny way.
The other candidates were comfortable answering the question, so I wanted to offer you a chance to answer it. I understand you're not comfortable directly answering it, but I want to move on to
I'm comfortable. I'm happy.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to say I'm a capitalist, but I think at a certain point, the labels do nothing but divide us.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to build this campaign around is to say that as a country, we've got to stop finding every excuse to divide ourselves.
Point taken.
And begin working together, because we've got some big issues to make.
Point taken. In terms of your platform, I understand you support universal health care, not necessarily Medicare for all. You've supported some free trade deals in the past, like NAFTA. You've touted your executive experience in a field full of legislators here. You don't like labels, but you sound like more of a centrist. How do you keep the Democratic Party from splintering further?
Well, by trying to avoid all the labeling that goes on. You know, I mean, I'm running for president because I believe I can beat Donald Trump, but I also believe I can bring us together on the other side and begin getting stuff done. And that's one thing I think that I bring to the table is I'm a doer. I'm not someone I'm a dreamer too, and I believe in big visions. We've done some amazing things in Colorado. I mean, we've almost got universal health care coverage in Colorado now. We've addressed some of the biggest root causes of climate change. We've taken our economy from 40th in job creation to being the #1 economy in the country for the last couple of years. Those are things that I think should be models on what the next president needs to be able to demonstrate, that they can do things.
Right. Well, Governor, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be tracking the